I get tons of messages about lion hunts a week. I don't even know how many I get a week, but it's been several. People are looking for opportunities to hunt lions, whether you're a houndsman back east here and you want to take your hounds out to try your hand at catching one of the most elusive creatures, the American mountain lion, panther, puma, whatever you prefer to call it, or you're a deer hunter or an eastern bear hunter or whatever, and you're looking for this opportunity. Cleave Dwire is on the podcast this week, and he is going to talk about how to select outfitters, some tips and tricks that he's learned, and everything from skinning to packing to shipping, all of the stuff that goes into a lion hunt that we often don't think about. You know, we think about the success of finding the lion, getting the lion to the tree, but what do you do after it's on the ground? How do you get it back home? All those sort of things are in this podcast, so this will be a good one for you. We take a pretty deep dive on how to select an outfitter. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're thinking about hiring an outfitter, then Cleve's got some really good points about how to do that. If you are an outfitter, maybe you need to listen to this and get some tips on how to talk to clients and some expectations. So if you have that deep burning desire to go out west and chase mountain lions, you need to listen to this podcast because we answer a lot of those questions. We talk about things that you may not have thought about. It's all here, folks. I think you're really going to enjoy this podcast. Also, I want to let you know that there is a wild and crazy movement going on social media. We have established a new hashtag, and it has to do with fair chase. The hashtag is #ThisIsFairChase. We started that with the intent of getting the message out that we believe in what we do, how we do it, and dispel any rumors about whether or not hunting with hounds is fair chase. It is. Be proud of it. Use that hashtag on your social media posts when you're posting your adventures. It's real easy. #ThisIsFairChase. Show the world who we are. Be proud of who we are. Nobody's going to do it. We've got to do it for ourselves. Speaking of standing up for ourselves and doing things for ourselves, we've got a late-breaking news story that I need to cover in this pre-roll because we need to take action on this, folks. Utah Houndsman Association notified me that House Bill 469 has been introduced. It actually flew through the Senate and the House, which would delist mountain lions in the state of Utah. So you can go to Utah Houndsman Association, get all the information that you need on this bill there. There's also information on how you can contact representatives and legislators in that post. This is our opportunity, folks. We got to rise up and show the world that hunters care more about mountain lions than anyone. We can't allow the mountain lion to be delisted in Utah. It's time to get down to business in this podcast, and as my buddy Larry Anderson would say, this is a box shaker. Let's get the tailgate down. It's time to dump the box. What's the best time you've taken? What's the best time you've taken this year so far, Cleve?
I don't know. My brother got a big one. Well, we killed 2 big toms that day, and it was really big. He killed 2 big toms this year, so I don't know. They're probably 155, 160 pound. They're probably 155 pound lions, you know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That one's going to score really well. So it might be right at book or just below it, you know.
Yeah. Are you getting guys from all over? Are you getting a lot of repeat clients, or what are you guys getting right now? You getting any newcomers?
Yeah, we got some new guys, and then some of them are repeat people, so a little bit of both. Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to talk about choosing your outfitter. I want to talk about a lot of different things here, but we're going to talk about choosing taxidermists. We're going to talk about why it's important to choose an outfitter that knows how to take care of your hunt of a lifetime. And I see so many people talking and calling the, mountain lion hunting their bucket list hunt. And deer hunters from back east and bankers from New York City, everybody is itching to get to the mountains to try to kill a mountain lion and take a mountain lion. And it's not something that you can just drop into town and do effectively. I mean, we got a lot of hunters and houndsmen coming from back east here that are seeing some success in the West, but it's still not the same. I think it takes a few years of going to the same places and stuff like that in order to be able to be successful for somebody like me. So it's always best, I think, to choose your outfitter wisely. So we're going to talk about taxidermy. We're going to talk about skin them. We're going to talk about all that sort of stuff. So Cleve, you've got a lot of experience on doing that sort of stuff, and let's just roll with it, man. Where do you want to start?
You could probably start with picking an outfitter, when you go to
seems
pick an
logical.
outfitter.
Yeah, it seems logical.
Just make sure that outfitter's got a lot of experience, and then check the references. If they can't send you 40 or 50 references, you might not want to go with them, because that's
yeah, but isn't
what it takes to get good at it, at least.
Yeah, but 40 or 50, man, I probably wouldn't spend that much time. And then I would always be worried that, you're not going to send me the list of names of guys that left pissed off.
No, but I have a list, and on that list, there's people that went home without a mountain lion,
Yeah.
So, and I got it, right there, unsuccessful harvest. So that the prospect can call them and say, what happened? Was it a good hunt? Who knows? Sometimes they might say, yeah, Cleave Dwire wasn't worth the crap, but keep it transparent. So,
right. Well, let's start out with, let's just say that a guy is listening to this podcast that has never hound hunted in his life. He doesn't, he just he's deer hunted. He's been on outfitted elk hunts and different things like that out west, but he's coming from the east. Let's just lay out some realistic expectations and services that they are going to get from a good outfitter.
Yeah. So a good outfitter, most lion hunts should be one-on-one. Some are, one guide per two clients, but we don't do it like that. Ours are all one-on-one. So you should have your own guide, and that guide should have his own pack of dogs with equipment, side by side or snow machine or mules or whatever, pickup truck. Some guys don't have any of that, just got a pickup truck, but should have your own guide with his own pack of dogs, so you don't have to share a guide, especially with a total stranger. That's one thing. And make sure your guide has plenty of experience. You don't want to, hate to say it, you don't want to take some guy that's his first or second time ever guiding mountain lion hunts or something. That's not saying you won't kill one, but make sure that you're getting somebody with a lot of experience.
But okay, so an outfitter, and this is what I've seen a lot. I know a lot of outfitters in the West that they focus on deer, they focus on elk, maybe they focus on sheep. And then a lot of times these lion hunts are like, oh, well, we can extend our season or our income. Really what it is, it's they're increasing their income by adding lion hunts later, and they're subcontracting those lion hunts out to other houndsmen. So they're not necessarily houndsmen themselves, but their outfitting area includes mountain lions. So they go ahead and outfit for mountain lion, but they hire local houndsmen to actually be the guides.
Yeah, you nailed it. That's exactly what happens a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So the guy that booked you, hell, he might not even be a lion hunter, but he finds somebody to guide you, which sometimes that works out. But that guy that's booking you, he can't always answer all your questions, and he's not a lion hunter. Sometimes he is, but that's one thing to think about. And then see how many lions they harvest a year. Some of those guys, a lot of them only kill 3 or 4 lions a year. After their deer and elk season's done, they take some hunters and they bring them in as on call when the snow's fresh, and that's how they run it. But if you're gonna go on a hunt, be sure to go with somebody that, even if it's a snow hunt, make sure that you make sure you're going with somebody that can hunt dry ground and snow. And look through their photo albums on their website or their Facebook page. Make sure that there's some lions in there. There's no snow, and people aren't dressed for snow type of stuff.
Right.
And that's a good one, because you might book a hunt during December, January, or February during a heavy snow month, and you get a Chinook or a January thaw come through, and if you're just hunting around slop and crust of snow and really tough conditions, you're going to be wishing that you'd picked a different outfitter, because that's when the really good guys know what to do in conditions and situations like that. And the guy that's not that good, he's just used to hunting fresh snow.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be lost, and he's going to be like, man, he's going to be relying on a fresh snow to come in. So keep that in mind. Otherwise, your whole hunt could be blotched just because of poor weather conditions.
Yeah. So by picking a good outfitter, you can overcome the weather. We can't, you as an outfitter cannot control the weather. If you've got me booked, next week, there's no way that you can control the weather there. So the Chinese are controlling it or something, but Cleave Dwire doesn't have you can't see the clouds, and you can't make ideal conditions. So a good outfitter or a good guide is going to know how to catch a lion in multiple conditions. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yep. Have a good chance at catching one still,
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So kind of just check into that. And when you call them references, ask them references what kind of conditions it was. Was it snow? Was it dry ground? Was it mud? Was it rain? That way it gives you a good idea of what that outfitter's capable of.
Mm-hmm.
That way you don't get out there with high hopes and then just it takes the wind out of your sails, and then it sucks at that point.
Right.
So definitely.
Well, for guys that do choose an outfitter, maybe they were out for an elk hunt, and there's a couple guys that I know that do contract work for outfitters. Should a hunter ask their outfitter that question? Are you a houndsman, or do you subcontract your lions out, your lion hunts out? Is that a 100%. Good question?
Yeah, that's a good question. 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And ask, hey, are these your dogs, or are they somebody else's dogs? And if I'm going to go with someone else, can I talk to him? I'd like to visit with him. That way, you can pick his brain and see if that outfitter is kind of full of crap, and if he's just trying to sell you a hunt, or if that guy that's going to guide you, or one of the guys that they think they'll guide you, has any idea of what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure that he's legit. Ask him how many years he's been hunting. I mean, you don't have to pry, but kind of pick his brain. And then you also want to get on the phone and talk to him and see if that's somebody you want to spend 7 days riding around hunting lions with. Sometimes that's not the case. You get there and you're like, man, this guy's a jerk,
Yeah. That'd be a real red flag. You end up calling your outfitter and you're talking to him. He's like, no, I subcontract that out. I don't keep my own hounds. If he doesn't want to let you talk to his guide, man, I'd turn around and run from that in a heartbeat. Because either one, he doesn't have somebody that's loyal to him that's going to do the work for him, or he's just flying by the seat of his pants type stuff.
Exactly. Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
Or he's exactly. Flying by the seat of his pants, and he might not even have anybody.
That's right.
Get ready to guide you, and then he has to scramble to find somebody, and last minute he finds this guy, and he might not be that great a lion hunter. So
if you've got a good reputation for being a top lion guide, that you work for other outfitters, then you usually don't have to look for work. So and I'm not totally trying to rip on outfitters here. I'm just saying, be cautious if you're going to and do your homework. Because if a guy hasn't booked any lion hunts and then it's getting late in the season, it's going to be hard to find a guy that's going to come and just drop what he's doing, and you're going to get what you get at that point.
Yeah, exactly. For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, that's definitely something to think about. Yeah, keep that in mind. And if you think, if you call him and you think he's kind of full of crap, call somebody else, and check around. Call the references. If they don't have references, if they don't have quite a few of them, I'd probably go someplace else.
Yeah. So I booked this lion hunt, and I'm used to going to Green Mountain Lodge and having all my meals catered for me and all of this sort of stuff. Is that a realistic expectation when you're booking a lion hunt, or, just tell us how that normally goes?
Oh, I mean, like food and lodging and all that.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean? Yeah. Some outfitters, they got a lodge, and especially those guys up north, like in Montana and Idaho and all that. A lot of those guys have a lodge, so they base out of that. A lot of other outfitters, say in Nevada and Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, those guys typically put their hunters up in a motel because you might need to be really mobile. You might not be finding any lions where you're at, so you might have to drive and go to another town, maybe 80 miles away, and spend the rest of the hunt there looking for lions. So ask them, if you're at a lodge all the time, or if you're on the road staying in motels, ask them who pays for that. Who pays its food and lodging. Like I have my guys, our clients, get their own food and lodging, because that makes it easier. At the end of the day, I can kick them out and they can go, get cleaned up and go to dinner and stuff, and I can go take care of my mules and my dogs and whatever. So that's how we run it. And some people steer away from that. They're like, man, I want to be fed, and I want to be catered to and all that. But yeah, that's the way we hunt it, because this country's so big. We don't stay in one place all the time. We got to keep moving.
So if you kick out some lion hunters at a motel 80 miles away, are you driving home that night to feed your mules and switch out hounds and all that sort of stuff? If you had
Oh, no. If we're on the road, I got the mules taken care of if I don't have them with me or whatever. If we're on the road and we do have mules with us, I keep them at a corral out of town.
Okay.
So
yeah.
So I go take care of those then.
But there's still work to be done, and I think that's something. I'm talking to people that aren't necessarily houndsmen here, but there's the thing that people that are booking lion hunts should understand is that when you drop your hunters off, your day is still going on. You got hounds to feed, maybe you got hounds to doctor, you got mules to feed, you got tack to put up, you've got, just preparation for the next day. And unless you're a big operation, a big outfit, the social time and the entertainment doesn't necessarily come with the lion hunt. You're going to get your entertainment in the form of adventure and catching lions and stuff like that. But so we're kind of trying to set out some expectations here for when you book that lion hunt, what you're actually going to get. It's not a you don't necessarily have serving staff and stuff on the South Serengeti like you do in South Africa for a mountain lion hunt in the U.S.
Exactly. Yeah. So at the end of the day, your outfitter, drops you off at your motel and you go get something. He still has hounds to feed. Who knows? He might have maintenance to do on one of his machines, or put shoes on a mule or something. And he's out there in the dark, So his day starts, maybe an hour before the client's does, and it ends probably an hour and a half or so after that. So
depending on what you get into.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a longer day. That's something to be expected, Some clients are like, man, let's go to dinner. I'm like, yeah, if we kill a lion, let's go to dinner. But right now I'm tired. I got too much stuff I got to go get taken care of. So
right. Yeah, they're there for a good time and you're there working, and I think we lose sight of that sometimes when we start looking at the outfitting businesses. That's your job. If I fly into Nevada to hunt with Cleave Dwire, I'm there to have a good time. And you want to make sure I have a good time, but I also have to have the expectation that if I hire you as an outfitter, that if I don't allow you to do your work, then I'm not going to have a good time.
Exactly. Yeah, you know that. Yeah, exactly.
I'm not going to be successful.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, and then they say, man, instead of us going to dinner last night, man, you probably should have fixed this side by side.
Yeah, we can't. We decided to go. Yeah, we decided to go eat dinner last night and drink buckskins, and now we have to work on the side by side for 2 hours before we can start our day today, guys. Yeah, that's not gonna fly.
No, No, we have to. You get a
Most of,
chance on your line. If you ever get the chance to get some extra sleep, you better take it.
yeah. Most of the guys I know though, that I've been around at different outfits and stuff, you know, if they're clients and they're coming in, a lot of them will help. A lot of guys will pitch in and help. And there's been times where I've seen guys that were better mechanics than the outfitter, you know, that could zip through some of that stuff. I remember one time we were in Montana and we were working on a side by side. I was not the outfitter. I wasn't the guide. I was just there freeloading. And he had some clients in, and this guy was a Polaris mechanic from back east, you know, so heck yeah. So it's like,
yeah,
the outfitter was ready to buy that guy's dinner that night for sure.
I bet. Yeah. That's handy. Really handy to have.
Yeah,
for sure.
So, all right, let's answer the question that gets asked a lot. I want to know what your reaction to this is. So the first question that a lot of lion hunters will ask is, what are your success rates? How do you as an outfitter answer, what are your success rates?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, first of all, I never tell anybody I'm 100%. I think there was one year we were 100%, but I never even claimed that. I always tell them, you know, all depends on weather conditions, but most years you're about 70% successful. There's some years we're 90, but on average, it's going to be about 70% successful. That's taking in snow, dry ground, all those conditions, throw them all together. That's what it's going to come out to be. That's on a 7-day hunt. So that's what to expect on, you know, when you come hunting here with us. On that same point, there's going to be a lot of outfitters out there that say, yep, 100% every year. We're that good. I want to stay away from those guys. That's what you want to hear. They're telling you what you want to hear.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, man, everybody wants to be sold on something. But they're claiming 100% or something like that. Yeah, they're full of shit.
There's a lot of females and sub-adult lions getting killed if they're running 100% year after year after year. They're not very picky. They just want to get a lion on the ground for you and move on to the next guy.
Exactly. Yep. So they're killing small lions and they're killing the stuff I'm passing on. They're like, no, I'm going to let you kill a 70-pound lion. You know,
yeah.
we're going after.
Have you told guys no? You know, like, no, we're not killing them.
I tell them that all the time. Yeah.
And what's their reaction? It's like, man, I paid $6,000 or whatever. You know, I paid all this money to come out here and hunt, and you're not going to let me kill a lion. What do you tell them?
Well, I let them know that up front. So yeah, you know, we seldom ever kill females. So we strive to kill toms, and we're probably going to pass on some females. We're looking for a big lion, you know. So you know, it's from a conservation standpoint, not from an ego standpoint, which is some people might think. But no, it's from a conservation standpoint. I don't like killing them females, so we pass on them until we find that right tom. Sometimes the guy goes home without a mount line. But yeah, you want to kill your producers. So that's what I tell them when they book. Sure.
Yeah, because you're looking for a sustainable model into the future. And if you're knocking the ends off, then boom, you're not going to have that next year or the year after or 3 years down the road.
Exactly. Yeah, you got to have some forethought, and whatever you do this year is going to cost you 3 years from now.
Yeah.
It's going to hurt you. So
yep.
If it's the wrong situation, wrong choice. So
yeah.
And then another thing to think about is if you're booking a hunt, ask the outfitter if you can use his rifle or something. And if you're not bringing a bow, if you're just bringing a rifle, sometimes it's easier to use his rifle instead of bringing your own on the airplane. So that I have a lot of guys that run into that, and they're more than welcome to use ours. So that takes a lot of the headache out, especially if you're an on-call hunter, like will call or last-minute hunter. That way you don't have to scramble getting all that stuff taken care of.
Let's talk about calibers in a few minutes here. I got one more question I want to ask you when we're booking this hunt about the question. The question is, how many book cats? How many record book cats I'm looking for a Boone and Crockett lion. You know, how many of those how many of those a year do you kill? How do you answer that question?
We don't kill one of those every year. We kill one of those about every 5 years. So, yeah. So, we have one line that's in the book. He's number 3 in the state, and then I think we got 1 or 2 others that are in there too. But most time you don't kill very many of those. That's like, I had a guy message the Facebook page a while back, and he said, "Yeah, I'm looking to kill a 170-pound tom. That's what I'm after." And I said, "Oh, good luck." I said, "They're
Go
out
to
there."
British Columbia.
Yeah, it's like, he says, "You guys kill them?" I'm saying, "Yeah, we've killed something like that," but the expectations of killing one like that, it's slim. Even British Columbia, they do get bigger lions up there, but I've talked to outfitters up there, and they said it's still tough to find one that big. But like,
Yeah.
this guy was dead set on that's what he's going to go home with. I was honest with him and said, "No, the chances of killing one like that is pretty slim. We've killed them like that before, but it's going to be tough to find one." What's going to happen is he's going to get a hold of an outfitter that's going to tell him exactly what he wants to hear. He's like, "Oh yeah, we kill 170-pound. We should kill 5 or 6 of those a year." And he's going to say, "Yep, I'm going with that guy." They're going to kill 140-pound tom, and that outfitter's going to say, "Oh, we didn't need to weigh that thing. That's what he weighs. He's 170-pound tom." He's going to slap that guy on the back and say, "Good job, Bob." And that guy's going to go ahead and tell everybody that.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and field dress that here in the field, so it's easier to get out of here, and you get it back, and it'll weigh 135 pounds, and they'll say, "Oh, the guts weighed 35 pounds."
Exactly.
He was full of meat, didn't you? Don't you remember? We looked at him. He's full of meat when we.
Exactly. It happens all the time. People, a lot of lines, we get out there. Most time we don't have a scale with us. Sometimes we do, but most time you can't get them to the truck. So we skin them there, and like, okay, that's probably 140-pound tom. That's a good, nice big old tom. But there are a lot of outfitters out there that, "Oh, that's 170-pound tom," and like, let's bet some money on that and see what he comes out to be. $1,000 says he's not.
Yeah. Well, let's get into let's get beyond the choosing the outfitter thing. Let's talk about some of the most important things, and I want to talk to you about care for the trophy afterwards. Care for that lion afterwards. The guys, I hear it all the time. Bucket list hunt. I can't, even from other houndsmen. This is a bucket list hunt. So obviously, the ability of the outfitter to care for that lion and have it preserved properly, skinned properly, preserved properly, all of that sort of stuff. I want to get to that, but you started to talk about rifles and different things like that. And I've seen everything from, guys talking about lion hunting with 300 Winchesters to 22 mags. And somewhere in between that is the right answer. So
exactly.
What do you recommend? What do you recommend for calibers, bullet selections, or just use the outfitter's rifle?
Exactly. So if you're bringing a rifle and you're dead set on bringing your own, I'd recommend, this is what I tell all our guys that come hunting. I'd recommend bringing a 223, 22 250, 243, 25-06. Nothing huge. I have guys that want to bring like a 300 Win Mag or 338 or something, and like, no, you're not bringing your 338 Lapua.
Yeah, we're not charging African lions here. There's no danger of a Cape Buffalo charging us out there. We're good.
Exactly. And those bigger rifles, man, they just, most time they ring your ears, and they ring my dog's ears when that gun goes off, and it blows a big old hole in the backside of that line, on the other side, the exit wound, just the size of your fist. And a lot of people say, "Oh, that's no big deal. My tack trimmers take care of that." But what they don't realize, when they go to dress that up and trim that tack trimmers has to take some height around the outside of that wound, the perimeter of that wound. So that's taken away from your trophy. So the less trophy damage, less bigger hole, not as big of a hole that you blow in that line is better. That's something like bows. A lot of people want to bring bows, and I kind of keep them to the mindset that you're going to have to do a whole lot more sewing your tax number, so with a bow. I've seen some shots from bows that they were, one shot deal, but that bow, always tears up more than a rifle ever does.
Mm-hmm.
So, especially mechanical broadheads. I don't let anybody bring mechanical broadheads at all. It's all fixed blade
Hallelujah.
broadhead. What happens is that hunter goes to shoot that line. He's up in a big tree or something. And
I'm not a mechanical broadhead fan.
Yeah, they're not a good thing because they open premature. It just takes one little twig and one little pine needle, and that mechanical opens up prematurely just a split second before it hits that line. Then it has a chance of hitting another branch, and instead of hitting that line in the vitals, it might hit him in the guts, and I don't like that. I like giving them lines as clean of a death and clean of a harvest as possible. We owe that to them. So I like making sure it's a good, clean, ethical shot, and I try to get guys not to bring a bow, especially just these days. It's just a pain in the ass getting one to the airport and hauling one on a mule.
Mm-hmm.
But here lately, I've been really strict about it because last year I had a dog got shot by one of my archery hunters, and he's a high level competition archery, guy, and really high level. But when you're shooting foam targets on a mountainside in a course, is different than shooting a 140-pound mountain lion from 30 feet away. There's no adrenaline when you're shooting foam targets, and
Right.
that cost me a good dog. He went home with a 140-pound mountain lion, but I buried a $10,000 dog. So I'm really getting to the point where I don't really like taking archery hunters anymore. Man, they're just a pain. But if you are dead set on bringing your bow, bring fixed blade broadhead, and it'll do less damage to your trophy than a.
The first hunt I went on, the first mountain lion hunt I ever went on was with an outfitter. And it was 1993 in Scalcahoe Lodge down in Hamilton, Montana. And I was one of those guys. I was like, I'm bringing my bow. I'm going to shoot. And John told me, he's like, man, I'd rather you didn't. And I said, well, I'm good. I'm good with this bow.
That's what they all say.
Yeah, I'm good. And he's like, well, we're gonna, if you bring it, then I'm going to put you through. He actually told me when he said, we're going to set this up where I see you shoot that bow and do some different things there to see how good you are. But I've got the final say whether you're taking that bow or not.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes even guys with guns aren't safe.
Oh no, they're not safe too. Sometimes they're wild. It's pretty.
I was talking
too much
to
adrenaline.
Yeah, no doubt. I was talking to an outfitter here a couple of weeks ago, and it was Corey Daly down Little Lost Outfitters, and we just got on that subject. It's like, man, how do you deal with that guy that he always wanted to take his son on a lion hunt, and the son has got more sense with a gun than he's got,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't even know how you guys deal with that kind of stuff. Corey told me what he did. What do you do? What do you do when you get a guy out there that shouldn't even be in charge, handling a firearm?
I take his bullets.
Do you?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We tell him, like, you only put one bullet in that gun before we shoot that lion. You don't keep any other in the magazine. Keep the other ones in your pockets. There's been times I just give me your rifle. Oh, give me them bullets, and I just take it from him. Hey, can I have that rifle back? So no, I'll carry it for you. Because what happens is they keep that rifle with extra bullets in there. They shoot that lion. They might make a really good shot on that lion. He's a dead lion. He's just going to run 80 yards and pile up. But it's your natural instinct to rechamber another round, because when you see that lion bailing out of that tree or off that cliff, it looks like he's getting away. So it's your natural instinct to just rechamber another round. And then the lion goes down there and they're like, oh, hey, he's dead. Never mind. You don't need a follow-up shot. People forget to take that bullet out of the chamber. And that's not safe. That's dangerous. Walking around rock piles and stuff, and you got a loaded rifle.
And then you look it over real close, and you realize that they didn't even put the safety back on if they're using a semi-auto loader, or they did rechamber around. I've seen that around coon trees. Look over and you're like, hey man, is that 1022 on? Have you got the safety on that thing? Oh yeah. Then they look down and it's like, whoops, no, I didn't. I've had close calls, with and I was a hunter ed instructor for 30 years, taught hundreds of kids, thousands of kids on firearm safety. And every once in a while you'll catch yourself where it's just like, man, so it happens to everybody, but you also can spot those guys. We used to do some stuff here at home, do some outdoor adventure stuff. And part of it was target shooting. And you always had those dads that were like, oh yeah, I grew up shooting and stuff. And, my daughter, who was 10 years old, reaches over and she says, Dad, at the time she was 10, she's like, Dad, he didn't put the safety back on. He's over there flagging everybody on the range. It's like, oh, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, ego can kick in a lot of times. And I think it's less likely when you've got a one-on-one situation like you guys are running. I think most people are like, Cleave's the expert here. I'm going to do exactly what he says.
Yeah. Most guys respect that. There's some that, boy, it gets them bent out of shape. Nothing personal. It's just protocol,
Well, it's personal when they shoot you. That's pretty damn personal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's personal when they shoot a hole in the side of the truck or they kill one of your hounds. It gets personal then. So you got to have a low tolerance for that sort of stuff. So make sure that if you're booking a line hunt, that you do what your outfitter or your guide tells you, and don't take it personal.
Mm-mm.
I don't know. I don't know what kind of, I'm sure that the state isn't going to fund your insurance for you. So, there's a lot of risk. It's an extremely safe thing. And have you ever had any accidents?
No, never have. Not one. So we've been lucky.
Because people do what they, people do that sort of stuff. They listen to what you say. What about, so we talked about caliber. What about bullet selection, Cleave?
Yeah. I like something that doesn't blow the hell out of them. I like them kind of like Barnes bullets or whatever that go in there and expand. They don't blow a big hole out the other end. I want the bullet to expand inside that animal.
Mm-hmm.
That's safer for the dogs too. You don't want that bullet going through that lion and killing a dog on the other side if you're in a big rock ledge or something. That's a lot of people, they YouTube mountain lion videos and they automatically think, oh man, I'm going to be shooting a lion 20 feet up in a tree at a 45-degree angle. Not here in Nevada. We catch probably 30%, 40% of our lions in rock piles and big cliffs and ledges. And it always doesn't always go that way. You're not always shooting at close range, and you're not always having that I don't know, luxury to sit there and wait for that lion to turn around and get the perfect shot. Sometimes it's a fly by the seat of your pants and you crawl down a rock pile and shoot him, at a weird angle too. So, but on the bullet selection, 223 all the way up to, maybe 25-06. Make sure it's not a solid point. Make sure it expands inside, but ain't going to blow the hell out of them off the other end. Your taxidermists will appreciate it.
Right. Yeah. We did an episode with, on bullet selection, and we talked about hard cast versus, hollow points and different things like that. I think the biggest misconception is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in my opinion, a mountain lion is not a very hard animal. They're not tough. If you get a good shot placement, you don't need a lot of gun to kill them. No, you don't. And seldom do you need a backup shot if you make a good shot, Yeah. You don't need a follow up, but you're right. Yeah. They're not hard to kill. They're not, they're a big animal, but they're not, they're not heavy boned like an elk or, moose or something. Right. So it's overkill to bring anything bigger than a 25-06 in my opinion. Yeah. So not very much. Good point. Mm-hmm. Good point. All right, let's talk about the lions on the ground. We've selected you to be our outfitter. What should I be expecting once that lion hits the ground? Yeah, most time we don't let our dogs roll that line hardly at all. Just let them get a couple bites in, and drag them off and tie them up and make sure them dogs are out of the way when we go take pictures and skin the line. Once we start skinning that line, I've had guys that want to get in there and help me skin it. Oh, here, I'll grab my knife and skin. If you're with an outfitter, let your outfitter do that. Just help him hold one of the lion legs or something. Help him hold something out of the way. Because you get two knives whipping in there, somebody pulls the line, you're gonna have either an accident, somebody's gonna get cut, or you're gonna make a bad cut in that mountain lion hide, and then
This can be bad. My brother guided a guy a few years back, and the guy said, I want to help skin. My brother said, I'll skin it. And, I want to skin it, and so that guy's helping out. And that guy cut a big old slice in the side of that hide, about 10 inches long, 8 inches long. It's like,
there's your lion.
The guy looks at my brother, says, maybe I'll let you just do the skinning, It's a lot better. Everybody wants to be involved, but sometimes it's better just hold something for the outfitter or the guide and just hold the flashlight,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
if it's in the dark, and then, just make sure if you're doing it yourself, say if you want to do it yourself, hunt or whatever, make sure you're using a sharp knife. I've seen people try to skin lions with dull knives, and
my goodness.
I've had to try it and be like, oh crap, wrong knife. Let me grab one with a good blade. And it's a lot cleaner cuts for the taxidermist to sew up. If you use a dull knife, it kind of butchers it. And you can tell when somebody uses a dull knife versus a sharp one.
Sure.
So use a sharp knife.
What about I'll start this asking you, how long does it take you to skin a lion?
Probably about 30 minutes. My brother can skin one 17 flat. That's fast. That's quick.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, it is.
I'm not as fast as he is, so, but about 30 minutes.
I would rather have a good job than a fast job.
Yeah, he does both.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And it's always fun to watch that, they're a master of their craft and you can see it when they're doing it. And I'm the type of guy that doesn't like to watch other people work. If somebody else is working, I feel like I need to be in there. So it's interesting about, it's like, here, hold this, here, do this. Why don't you just, but stay out of my way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Sometimes you need somebody to hold something more than you need them to get in there and start throwing elbows around. And
So what's a good skinning job look like for somebody that has never seen a mountain lion skinned? How, what does that look like when it's all said and done?
Yeah, so you start skinning. We typically make all of our cuts first. So we make your initial cuts going down each leg. You start on the front, you start right below, like right at the wrist, and go all the way to the center of their chest on each side. And then on the hind legs, you go right behind their hock, right behind, right there where their foot starts, go all the way down to where, I guess it'd be like their Achilles and their ankle, and then go all the way down to right there in their groin area on both sides, then go up the belly. And you want to make those cuts as smooth as you can. You don't want to have to go in there and start cutting and then stop and then start again, because every time you go to start again, sometimes it'll butcher it and you'll see a little zigzag mark right there where your blade started again. So once you start, see if you can just keep that blade running as long as you can without starting again. That makes a lot cleaner cut.
How far up into the brisket do you go?
Well, we skin them right to the chest right there. And then once we get those cuts, then we start peeling it all back, and we don't really cut that hide into the brisket. We stop right there in the sternum is where we make that two cuts come together.
Yeah.
From each leg. And then start getting that peeled back. And by the time you get done, you'll have the tail in there. We leave the tail in, the head, and the feet. We let the taxidermist skin those out. So that's what we're packing out is the mountain lion head inside the hide, the feet are, and the tail is.
So the skull, the tailbone's still in it, and all four paws right below that first joint at the feet.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah. The reason I was asking about all that stuff is because I'm trying to do this, explain this for the person that's never seen one skinned. If you see your outfitter or your guide, split that lion all the way up to the chin.
Exactly.
You just got a rug. Congratulations. Your full body mount just turned into a rug.
Yeah, exactly. Good point. Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah. So you don't want them, you don't want them to skin it all the way to that chin or up to that Adam's apple or nothing like that. Those cuts need to come together right there in the sternum. So
yeah,
exactly. And then, after you get that line skinned out, most states require that they can pull a premolar for aging. So as soon as that line's dead, you take pictures after everything's done, you skin it. You want to take like a pine cone or an empty water bottle or something to put that in that lion's mouth, because that rigor mortis sets in. Then you got a lockjawed mountain lion, and it's a lot easier for that biologist to pull that tooth if his mouth is spread open. So that's something to think about. And everybody forgets. All outfitters and guides forget to do that all the time. Most of the time we get it done, and it makes it a lot easier. And biologists kind of get pissy if you don't. But,
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, that's a lot easier for them to pull that premolar.
Do you know if Montana's still retaining skulls after? Are they still collecting the skull and keeping that for the only?
I don't know.
They used to keep them. They'd come out. Yeah, they'd come out and they'd take them, and then they would ship them back to you. I bet they've changed that since then. But that's how they used to do it. I had my lion skull actually sent back to me after it was, I assume it was the same skull. Well, I guess it was, because it had my tag they tagged it when they took it. So yeah, I was just curious, but now it just seems to be, pull a premolar type thing.
Yeah,
Nevada.
I think, Nevada and almost all the other Western states, it's just pulling a premolar. And I would imagine Montana's probably on the same page now too.
Yeah,
I would like to think so. But that's one thing you got to get done. Now, when you're at that, say now you're at the Fish and Game office getting that line sealed and inspected, and they're taking all the paperwork down. They pull the premolar, and then they'll go to punch the seal through the hide. What's best to do on that is to don't put that seal just like looks like a lockout tag out seal or like a zip tie. Mm-hmm. Don't put that seal through the exit wound. I think it's better, and taxidermists have told me too, cut a little hole about a 1/2 inch from the edge of the hide and run that seal through there, like right there on the side of the belly or on the forearm or in one of the hocks, someplace where there's not much fat though. And what that does, when they send that lion to the taxidermist sends that lion to the tannery, it's a lot easier for that tannery to get their fleshing tool around that seal, because they can't take that seal out. The taxidermist has to take it out when he goes to mount that lion. Mm-hmm. So they have to leave it in there. It's a lot easier for them to work around your hide and clean that hide up and flesh it with their fleshing tool, that wheel, than it is with that seal out there in the middle of the lion. It's all wadded up skin, and they got to work around that. So that'll make it a lot better. Always seem to do that. Always be sure to do that. And another thing on that, when you're at the Fish and Game office, if you're an international hunter, you're going to have an import-export permit and a bunch of paperwork on that line to get it back to wherever you live, overseas or whatever, abroad.
CITES tags.
Exactly. Yep. And that's a whole nother whole nother subject we'll cover here pretty soon. But when you're there, make sure you get every ounce of information about your harvest. If you're an international hunter and you're going to have that lion shipped back to your home, cross seas, whatever, make sure that biologist can send you an email with all the harvest information. If it's a sheet, take a copy of that sheet, make copies of it, because your import-export agent will probably need a lot of that information. Even though your line's sealed, it's got a tag, it's all cleared. Some countries require that they have all that harvest info, your outfitter's information, all that. So get as much info on that harvest report of that lion as you can, because you might need it in the future. We've ran into that a couple of times, and each country is different. Brazil is different than Australia, and Germany's different than Mexico. Mm-hmm. It's totally different requirements. Yeah. So yeah, make sure you're squared away on that. And the thing on that is, you'll be good if you get all that stuff. But when you do get a taxidermist to do all that for you, make sure he's got a good import-export agent that he uses on a regular basis. That way you get somebody that really knows what they're doing. They do all the paperwork right, because if they don't, you might not get your lion back.
So the outfitter, that's a question you should ask your outfitter too. If you're coming from Canada or you're coming from Mexico or wherever you're coming from to hunt with you, mm-hmm. Do you have an import-export agent? That's a question that they need to be asking.
Yep. Or if they, main thing would be to ask if they have a taxidermist that they recommend that does international shipping. So if he does a lot of international shipping, he's going to have an import-export agent that he uses on a regular basis, and that guy's going to know his stuff. Because to get that lion back overseas, you can't just send a raw a raw skin back overseas. You got to have a taxidermist. Even if you're going to have a taxidermist in your country you live in, mount it for you. You still have to have a taxidermist here, flesh it, tan it, do all that stuff, dip it for parasites and all that, because they don't want to send that stuff overseas. So they're pretty strict about that. So you still got to find a taxidermist that's willing to do that for you, even though he's not mounting your lion. He can prep it for import-export permit.
Right.
And all that. So ask your outfitter, hey, do you have a taxidermist that you recommend? Look out his website, see if he's got stuff from Africa and all this, exotic stuff all over the world. Because if he's bringing it in, he's probably sending it out too. So he's be well versed in that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just check up on that taxidermist.
Well, I think that's a good place to transition to the next part, is choosing a taxidermist for your mountain lion. I've seen, guys go out and spend a lot of money on mountain lion hunts, be successful, and bring it back east here to a guy that does deer and turkey. And now they've got a cartoon character on their wall instead of a good quality mount of a mountain lion. The thing's head's too big, its eyes are bulging out. You can just tell. You can just tell because their brother-in-law does taxidermy, and they're going to save money on the taxidermist mount. So, as an outfitter, what do you recommend for a taxidermist?
I recommend you take it to somebody that's done a lot of mountain lions. It's predominantly, especially like a guy that really specializes in predators or cats. That's the way to go. And I like we have about a half a dozen taxidermists that we recommend, and they're really, really good. And that's what I tell a lot of guys that say, hey, you got somebody. Oh yeah. And he shows me pictures of what his hometown taxidermy guy does. And it's like, who? That don't look good. What do you mean? I said, that guy didn't set the ears right on that lion. The eyes don't look right. I could pick stuff apart all day long, and they don't see it. But if you want to, you could ask the outfitter and say, hey, okay, what taxidermist do you recommend? Look at their stuff. Most of the time they're going to be pretty good. Not always, but I would definitely go through and make sure that they got a pile of mountain lions that they've done and they look good. If somebody's only mounted 3 or 4 mountain lions, I wouldn't send mine to them. They wouldn't touch my line, because they can do bobcats and foxes and coyotes and stuff, but mountain lions are some of the hardest creatures there make look just right. So make sure that he's got a reputation and he's good, and don't look at it and say, well, yeah, I guess I'd be happy with that. I guess look at it and say, wow, man, that's amazing. Look at this other one. He did another amazing one, really good one there. Oh, look, he won awards on this one. That's the guy you're going to want to go with.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody you're to have any doubt, they can message our Facebook page. I'll tell them who we recommend. That way there's no guesswork in it. They know it's going to somebody good.
Right.
So,
well, obviously, if you're going to pick somebody good, then there's going to be a price tag. They've got that reputation for being good. So I think a lot of mistakes that I have made personally in the past is not figuring in the taxidermy work into the price of my hunt. And I get this mountain lion. It's like, I'll just freeze it and shit, take it home with me, and I'll get to it. And then I'm totally out of position because, people in Indiana aren't going to do as well as somebody that's living in a 406 area code out there, or something like that, or Nevada that's putting their hands on a lot of lions. So I think a good tip that I would give people is, if you're coming from the East and you're going to book this hunt, then go ahead and figure your taxidermy work into the cost of your hunt. That's as important in the end as you're going to regret it if you don't. It's as important as any other cost that you have. Exactly.
And that's the one that's going to last the longest. You're going to have to look at that thing for the next 30 years and say, damn, that thing looks like crap. Like you said,
looks like Garfield.
Yeah.
Looks like Garfield up there on the wall. Look how fat it is, and its big old head. And, you lose that. Ears are set wrong. Oh yeah. Yeah. I've been messaging Mark Dufresne back and forth. I was in Louisiana last week, and there was this ratty deer on the wall hanging in this seafood restaurant. It looked like it was, stuffed with, the nose looked like a tube socks, I mean, it was just round. It was terrible. It was all discolored and stuff. I snapped a picture of it and sent it to Mark Dufresne. I said, I see your work has made it to Southern Louisiana, He sent me one of this obliterated fox. So I like catching those really bad taxidermist mounts and rubbing it into my taxidermist friends. Gets a good laugh out of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bad taxidermy work out there.
Oh man, there is. So all right, so let me ask.
A lot of guys don't know the difference,
Well, that's what I was going to say too. That's another thing I was going to say is you can spot a bad taxidermist mount, but I've seen guys have stuff on the wall. It's like, man, I got my, maybe as a deer head, I got my deer head back. Come in here and look at it. And I look at it and I'm like, ooh, wow. I can't believe you did that. But they're just like, oh, look at that thing. Doesn't it look great? It's like, that is definitely something. That is something right there, man. I bet I can see you're proud of it. I don't lie to them and say, oh yeah, that's great. And I'm not brutally honest either and say, man, that looks like crap, but most people, when they see a mount line on the wall, I don't think most people even notice, but dang, you should, if you're going to spend that money, be selective on who you get to mount that thing.
Exactly. Yep. That's like a lot of taxidermists. They don't set the ears right. They make the ears stand up too much to like a fox or coyote. Mountain lion's ears set totally different than a coyote and fox's ears. Yeah. And it drives me nuts. Like some of these guys that catch lions for, they'll send me a picture, after they get their lion back. Oh, got my lion back. Couldn't be happier. I'm like, yeah, oh, good deal. Unless they ask, and then they're like, what do you think? I'm like, looks like a $3,000 mountain lion mount. Yeah.
Right.
It doesn't look very good. You don't think he did a good job? Like, no, I wouldn't let him touch my lion. No offense, but no, I wouldn't let him do mine. It's like we had a guy that killed a lion 2-3 years ago, and he came back to kill a couple more. And the first one, I said, your lion's still at that taxidermist? Yeah. I said, I got somebody else that would do a lot better job. No, this guy's really good. He didn't listen to me. And he sent it to that other guy, and he's not happy with it, but it's too late now.
Right.
The next two that he killed, he's taken them he'd sent them to the guy I recommend, one of the guys I recommend. And I'm like, okay, that's better. He'd be happy with it. But the other one, it looked rough. I'm like, I wouldn't be happy with that. Well, let's so just make sure you're sending him to somebody that's really good,
Let's just dispel something right now, because I don't care. And I think if I'm depending on you to recommend a taxidermist to me, I don't care if you get a commission or a kickback on that. Mm-hmm. That's part of the service that I'm paying you for. Your expertise, to me, that goes right into, I expect you to have hounds that can trail a lion. I expect you to have equipment that can get me through the mountains. And I expect you to have the knowledge of where to find mountain lions. So I've heard people, complain about, don't take the outfitter's recommendation. They get a kickback and a cut when they recommend people to these taxidermists. Well, good deal, man. I'm paying you for all your other expertise. Yeah, I'm happy to take your advice on this too. I'm not paying the taxidermist anymore. That comes out of the taxidermist's end. So don't worry about that garbage. If Cleave Dwire gets a kickback or a commission for recommending a taxidermist, good for you, Cleave. I'm happy for you. That to me, that's just part of the expertise that I'm paying you for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Because even if I were to get a commission, I wouldn't recommend that taxidermist unless I'd want him to do my own stuff.
Exactly.
And some of the taxidermists we recommend have done stuff for us. I'm like, okay, that's why I recommend them, So
right. It's just as valuable as where to find the lion track when you're preserving this hunt of a lifetime trophy for the rest of your life. You need to depend on your outfitter's wisdom and advice on that too.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's talk about say you get a hard head like me and a guy that's like, oh yeah, there is taxidermy involved in this. I'm going to take it back home with me and put it in my freezer. And my no good, worthless brother-in-law that mounts turkeys that look like roadkill chickens, he's going to do my mountain lion for me. And you can't convince me of anything else. How should that lion be preserved and transported back home? And I know it makes a difference between flying and driving and all that sort of stuff, but what's a standard practice for you guys?
That's a good question. Most of the time we skin that lion out. You know, we got the head, the hide, and feet still in that, and the tail still in that hide. When we ship it, we make sure it's sealed and inspect and all that. Put it in a couple garbage bags. Put it in the bottom like a 28 quart or 30 quart cooler, like great big giant lunchbox. Squeeze all the air out of that garbage bag, tie a knot in it, make sure it's packed in there tight, and then freeze it. If you don't have a freezer to freeze it in, you can use dry ice, but make sure you put a layer of cardboard between that lion, even though he's in a garbage bag, between that lion and the dry ice.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been a lot of times I was out of town. I didn't have a freezer. Didn't know anybody in town that had a freezer that I could use. So I use dry ice, and most times about 10 pounds, 8 pounds of dry ice will freeze that lion solid by morning.
No kidding.
Oh yeah, it's rock solid. And so after that lion's frozen, when I go to ship it, I'm not supposed to, but I put more dry ice in there on top of it if I can.
Mm-hmm.
That way, if there's a hiccup in shipping or something, that lion's not sitting there thawing out in post office warehouse or something.
Sure.
But when you ship it, try to put more dry ice in there, tape it up really good. And we don't use styrofoam coolers. I've seen guys use styrofoam coolers. Don't use those. Go down and get a hard plastic one. It don't have to be the best cooler out there. The better coolers give you more peace of mind, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But that's $100 cooler, $120 cooler versus a $35 cooler. Just make sure that line's packed in there good. Throw some dry ice in there. Make sure that cardboard's between the lion and the dry ice, so that dry ice doesn't burn that hide, get it too frostbitten or whatever. And then packed in there tight and ship it. When we ship those, we ship them like 2-day express, whether it's UPS, US Postal Service, FedEx, whatever. Ship them on Mondays and Tuesdays. And I try to never ship them past Wednesday, because you want that lion to get there during the week, during business hours. As soon as I send that lion off, I take a picture of that receipt and send it to the taxidermist it's going to, so he can start tracking it from the time it leaves my hands. And then that way, I'm out in the mountains, I'm out of service, I don't have to worry about it. That taxidermist, that's his deal now. He can go down to get it if it's at the post office or something happens. We've had that happen where they had a mountain lion sitting in the back of the post office for a day and it was thawing out, and he went down there to see if it came in, and the guy at the post office says, "Oh no, I don't see it here." And he's like, "Yeah, my tracking says it was delivered this morning."
Right.
Sure enough, they get digging around and found it back there, and didn't thaw out, didn't ruin it. But when I ship those lions to a taxidermist, here's something to think about. I never put the taxidermist company's name, because anti-hunters will see that it's going to a taxidermy studio, and some of them are like, "Well, screw him, he ain't getting that." And that's happened.
Yeah.
So I just put, the taxidermist first and last name, Bob Jones or whatever his name is, put that on there. And that way it keeps the antis from looking through and say, "Oh, okay, mountain lion. Yeah. Well, I don't think it's right to kill mountain lions. Maybe we'll just let this thing sit here for a while. He won't get it back, or it'll get back and it'll be spoiled or something."
Right.
So that's kind of a practice I've got into, that I'm getting a little bit better at, and just, I think it's helped, probably helped at least once or twice. So
Sure.
something to think about.
Yeah.
And then make sure that taxidermist has all that shipping info before long, before you freaking get out of town or whatever. Before you get on your plane and fly out or something. Yeah. I've had guys that take mountain lion in their, like on the plane with them, carry on, but I don't recommend that, because there was an instance 5 or 6 years ago, mountain lion hunter came hunting lions here in Nevada. It wasn't one of our guys though, but he took the mountain lion with him on the plane. Well, customs or TSA or whatever says, and he was 100% in the right, but he sat there for 3 or 4 hours until Nevada Department of Wildlife got there and went through it, and they say, "Oh yeah, you're fine," but he missed his flight. I'm sure they probably gave him another flight. It wasn't his fault. But I've heard of guys taking mountain lion and put it in their luggage. Do not do that, because they lose stuff all the time. Your line's going to spoil if they lose it.
Sure.
So safest thing is to hire your outfitter, ask your outfitter if he can ship it for you. If you got to get on the plane and get home, have him ship it for you, and then just reimburse him for the shipping costs. That's how we do it, and have guys, just do that. Reimburse me. That's a lot safer.
I want to say this before I forget about it, because we're talking about shipping lines now. I'm not, there are people in the East. I don't mean to rip on taxidermists in the East, because there are some good taxidermists in the East too. And we've got a guy just north of us here that has done stuff from all over the world. And he's a great taxidermist. There was a guy here local that was an international hunter. So a lot of African cats and stuff were shipped back here. So that wasn't my point, but be selective on your taxidermy. The thing that I want to ask you about now seems like the newer generation of hunters, and it's not a bad thing at all, but they're focused more on, the meat harvest too. So do you have more clients that are taking the meat home with them too?
Probably about the same as it's always been. Most people want to try it, back straps, to cut some back straps out, or a ham or something, and take that. Most guys that are flying, they can't, but surprisingly enough, a lot of guys that drive out, they bring a big cooler, they want to take that whole line back.
Right.
And it seems like guys from back east that drive here want to do that more than the Westerners, because they're like, man, I want to try that mountain lion out, have a barbecue and have all my buddies over there and tell them it's mountain lion meat, Yeah. So that's more common if they drive out, and then they're pretty set on taking a good bit of that lion meat home.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that it does happen, but most people are like, yeah, I'll take a back strap, I'll try it out. That's about it.
Yeah. So, yeah. But I was just curious about that part. It seems like everybody, if you can eat, if you can't eat it, then don't kill it, has been a trend that's been developing lately. And some of it, we've done some podcasts about that. I think we did one called Eat It or Not. And, some of the stuff that when you are hunting, I don't know where that attitude comes from. I'm not eating a coyote. I'm not going to do it. I'll shoot them, but I'm not eating them. And I think we get lost in the weeds sometimes about, I don't want it to go to waste. Well, dead animals on the landscape don't go to waste. They never go to waste. They're feeding something. But I'm also not saying, shoot mountain lions and just kick the carcass over the hill either. That's not what I'm saying. 'Cause I know a lot of people, I've eaten it. I like it. It's fine. I, make it into bratwurst, and I mean, they're good. I like them. But I was just curious about if you've seen an uptick in the trend to pack these animals home. 'Cause back in the day, it wasn't a big deal. Nobody did it.
Yeah. And I'm sure it's probably getting more popular.
Yeah.
I would imagine, especially with all podcasts like Meat Eater and stuff. It gets kind of people inspired. I'm going to try eating that, and stuff like that. And they got the recipes and all that crap.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of gets them motivated to do that. But
well, Jonathan Lesperance there for a while was putting stuff on his Instagram feed and different stuff about, grilling polka kibasca made out of mountain lion and bobcats and different stuff, so it looks, sign me up, man. Let's slap some mustard on that thing and some grilled onions and let's eat.
Yeah, it ain't gonna bite you back. So.
That's right. What else we got, Cleve? What else we need to cover?
I was going to talk about if somebody does decide to have a rug made, be sure to ask that taxidermist if he does a sewed felt backing. There's some taxidermists that use like hot glue to get that felt on there and glued on, and they don't have a good solid felt backing with almost looks like a pillow top mattress looking material. make sure that's the kind of material they're using. So like 2 or 3 layers of felt sewed to that like pillow top looking material, and then those will have D-rings, and that's on the back side of your line, the part that goes against the wall. That needs to have D-rings on there so you can hang it from nails and hooks from your wall. I had a big old line I killed back in 05, great big line. I think he weighed 158, and he'd score Boone and Crockett. He's 15 3/16, big old line. And I didn't use the taxidermist that I normally used. I tried a different guy, and experience tells you should have did otherwise. But I didn't want to ship it. I got lazy, and I had a different taxidermist do it, and he did a really poor job on that. And that's what he did. He hot glued that felt on. Didn't have a pillow type mattress backing looking stuff on there, and he had put D-rings, so I had to drive a nail through my mountain lion's hide. And he didn't do a good job at all. And I got it in my guest room. I don't even like going in there and looking at him because it reminds
a Boone and Crockett line that you can't stand to look at.
Yeah, exactly. So and I made that mistake. That's why I tell people, I'm like, don't.
Well, that's why it's so easy to talk. Yeah, it's so easy to talk about this stuff. I've tried to shortcut too in the past. It's like, yeah, so and so's just getting into taxidermy, or we'll give him a try, and everything from. Man, if they're mountain squirrels that look like footballs, just turn around and walk out. Yeah, it's not worth it. It's not worth it.
If you think it costs a lot to have a professional do it, have an amateur do it.
Yeah.
Then it really costs a lot,
That's right. That's exactly right.
But yeah, if you're going to do a rug deal, that's what I'd do. Make sure that they have sewed on felt backing and have like that pillow top type material on there with D-rings, so you can hang that line wherever you want, and you don't have to worry about it getting that hide in a wrinkle or nothing like that. It's a good quality rug. And then make sure they put, if you got a mountain lion rug mount, and it's or a full body for that matter, look at them, the pictures on them mountain lions. If that taxidermist doesn't put wrinkles on that nose like he's snarling, just kind of looks like he's drunk, just hanging his mouth open, don't go with that guy. And if he's got them ears out to the side, kind of sticking out, don't go with that guy either, because the mountain lion, when he snarls, he lays them ears flat back against his head. And that's something to look at. If he's got them ears pointing out like satellite dishes, that's not ever going to look right.
Right.
So make sure that nose is wrinkled. But the easiest thing is just ask somebody that knows, contact an outfitter or go do your research and find really good taxidermists that have a lot of good reviews. Got awards and they win big stuff. That's the best way to go. But
yeah.
And then once you get that lion, you get it back home, or if you're having it mounted, think about this. Are you always going to live in that house? And where you put it in that house, if you move to another house, is that mount going to be easy to make work in another house or complement another room in your house or something? A lot of guys don't think about that. And they think, oh, I'll live here forever. And then they move and they take that mountain lion and they don't have any place to put him that makes it look right. So if you think, I might move someday, get a mount that you can put in a lot of different rooms or something that'll always look good and you'll see them good.
Yeah, it's when you start talking about mountain lion mounts, especially if you're going to have them mounted on a rock or something like that. If you're living in a house with standard 8-foot ceilings, that mount is going to have to be mounted probably about 3 feet off of the floor, to give you, unless you want the mountain lion with his head touching the ceiling. It can be a challenge. So yeah, think it through all the way. I'll tell you, one of the things that I've been liking a lot more lately is just the tanned hide, and hanging it. It's just a straight up tanned hide, whether it's a bear hide or, coon hide or whatever. It kind of gives you the old trapper cabin feel type thing. But then again, I mean, you're looking at a mountain lion hanging, you're just going to need a lot of space.
Yeah.
Because that tail's, unless you want your yog terrier chewing the tail off of it.
Yeah. Like if you kill a lion, it's not a very big lion. That's an option. If you kill a big one, do that lion justice. He deserves that. Do that lion justice and take it to a high quality taxidermy studio. And another thing, if you sorry about that. if you got that lion mounted in your house, don't put it by big windows. That sunlight will kill that mount. It fades it, gets that hair to where it dries up and gets brittle and faded. That doesn't do you any favors. Make sure that lion doesn't have direct sunlight a lot, very little, and then if you are putting it downstairs, put it off the ground to where that base isn't on the ground. Cause you have a pipe break, it floods that. Oh man, that's going to break your heart if it ruins your mountain lion.
Right.
Like I got a guy, he's killed 3 lions with us and 2 with a different outfitter. And he's got a big trophy room downstairs. Well, luckily he moved all of his mountain lions upstairs and he's got a mountain lion room. That's all he puts in there is his mountain lion mounts. Luckily he did that because about a week after he did that, he had a hot water heater break and it flooded his basement and ruined a lot of his other mounts.
Yeah.
And he's like, man, I'm glad I moved all my mountain lions upstairs. So kind of keep that in mind.
Yeah.
You don't want that to happen. That'd ruin a nice big mountain lion mount.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Hey, Cleve, I think we've, what else you got? Anything we need to finish up here? Anything we missed?
Yeah, that's about it. Just I know a lot of guys that go on mounts, before they come out hunting, they're telling everybody, I'm going to go lion hunting. Well, they tell a taxidermist too. Oh, you're going to be the one that mounts my mountain lion, buddy. So they're committed to him. Maybe before you do that, just don't be committed to anybody. So I don't know who I'm going to send it to. They, I might send it to somebody they know or something. Try not to commit to that just
that's
yet.
That's always a difficult
obligated.
Thing, man. That's always a difficult thing because I mean, what do? We go down and we hang out at the taxidermist shops and they mounted our deer and they've done our turkeys and they've done all this other stuff. And it's almost like you feel like you're cheating on them if you don't bring your mountain lion back to them. But daggone, a good taxidermist, they may want to do it, but let them practice on somebody else's stuff.
That's what I always say. I ain't let nobody practice on mine.
Yeah, you let them spend the money to go on an outfitted mountain lion hunt, and then they can bring their mountain lion home and they can do their own mount on their own mountain lion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I had a lion lost, and I had a mountain lion that was lost. I brought it back, same scenario, and I lost that lion forever. The taxidermist misplaced it, so to speak. I don't know whatever happened to that thing. Luckily I didn't put a deposit down. Yeah,
that would have. Yeah, be wanting to get that money back.
Yep,
for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, that'd be unfortunate. Yeah, I've heard of things happening like that. It's like, well, they get one back and they're like, oh, I don't think that's the same mountain lion I sent there. It's like, no, it's probably the same one. The guy just didn't do the line justice,
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Sometimes that happens, but yeah, they do get lost and people steal them. But something to keep in mind.
I think they steal them and end up on the black market is what I think.
Yeah, I never thought about that. I bet you're right. That's a good point.
Yep.
Bet they do.
It's probably hanging in some Cracker Barrel with a poor mountain lion mount job, a poor taxidermy job over a Cracker Barrel fireplace or something.
Yeah.
That's where my lion's at.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to start looking around. Hey, that looks like my lion.
Yeah, that's old Scarface.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Yeah, for sure.
Cleve, thanks for taking time, man. This was a good one. This is something that we've never done on the podcast before. I think it's all valuable information and things that it's one of those finer points you just don't think about. You don't take it for granted. Yeah, he's going to know what he's doing. He's going to know how to skin a lion. He's going to know how to get all this stuff taken care of. And I think you shed some pretty good light on some stuff because, man, I'll tell you, I've ran into some outfitters that, they just are guides anyway, and some outfitters, but be selective, protect yourself, protect your interests, protect your money, be smart, ask questions. It's your money. You deserve good answers, and check those references. Thanks, Cleve.
Yep. You betcha.
All right. All right. Well, hey, this is the Houndsman XP Podcast. Thanks for listening, everybody. Make sure that you are sharing this podcast with your friends. especially those non-houndsman friends that may be wanting to go out and book a hunt with an outfitter. And Cleave and his brother Monty run Bull Creek Lion Hunts and Bull Creek Outfitters. Is that right, Cleave? Have I got that right?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Look for them on social media, or the website is Bull Creek Lion Hunts. There you have it, folks. I think we answered a lot of questions for you. Thanks for listening to the Houndsman XP Podcast. This is Fair Chase.